At Ascension Via Christi's ICU sent home as their shift was about to begin. They claim it's because they raised concerns about adequate staffing and also patient safety.
But the hospital says their units are safe and well staffed. 12 News reporter Cale Chapman talked to a union nurse at St. Francis and has more on what the hospital is also saying tonight.
This happened on Monday in St. Francis's SICU. We were contacted that night by a viewer about the situation. And Tuesday, we reached out to a nurses union representative and a spokesperson with Via Christi about what happened.
He said if they did not take the assignment, whether they felt it was unsafe or not, they should just go home.
Lisa Watson, a nurse at St. Francis and a member of the nurses union, says the situation that nurses walked into last night at St. Francis's SICU was not safe.
They were 3 nurses short, and the hospital was going to float a 4th nurse out of the ICU, making them 4 nurses short. 2 physicians said if staffing remains the way it is, patients will die tonight.
Watson says when the nurses brought their concerns to management, they were excused.
Their manager was on their way into the hospital when a director came in and sent the nurses home,
leaving day shift nurses working late and calling in managers and directors from other areas of the hospital to fill in. Here's what Ascension Via Christi says. In a statement, a spokesperson says, all of our units, including the SICU, are staffed to provide safe, quality care. In the instance when a nurse refuses to work their shift, following our patient safety standards and per our mutually agreed upon contract, we excuse them and bring in additional nursing support to ensure there are no gaps in care. In Wichita, Cale Chapman, 12 News.
Watson says the union is filing a grievance against the hospital now with Ascension's labor relations representative. She says it's the first time they've taken an action like this.